Hello and welcome back to Racing Roundup, episode number 7, where we talk about all things motorsport. And had a very busy weekend this weekend, lots of races going on, so I'm going to get straight into it. And we'll talk about Formula 1 first of all, of course. Before the weekend, a bit of calendar news. The Singapore Grand Prix unfortunately has been cancelled. Not really surprising, it is a street race and lots of travel restrictions going into Singapore at the moment, making it impossible really to organise the race for September. But the planned sort of replacements that are being thought about is either adding a second race at the United States event, so 2 races at the Circuit of the Americas, or potentially either the Turkish Grand Prix or the Chinese Grand Prix coming in to replace it. So either of those options would be quite exciting, I think. But yeah, no more Singapore Grand Prix for this year, 2 years in a row that it's been cancelled. But this weekend was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, also a street race around the Baku City Circuit, one of the most extreme street circuits in the world, it's safe to say. Very, very fast, but equally has the narrowest part of the whole Formula 1 calendar, only 8 metres wide through the castle section. But as always, it provided an extremely entertaining weekend for Formula 1. And Mercedes, if they were on the back foot in Monaco, they were even more on the back foot in Azerbaijan. They were really struggling in, throughout the whole weekend, but in practice in particular. They rarely made it into the top 10 in the timings, only managing to get up there with slipstreams on the mega long straight, 2.1 kilometres long from the final braking zone to the first corner. But come qualifying, they were able to step it up a bit. They both got into the top 10. Hamilton, in fact, qualifying on the second row. But it was a very interesting qualifying session. The most red flags in any qualifying session in Formula 1's history, with 4 red flags for 4 different incidents during the session, with turns 15 and turns 3 causing all the trouble thanks to the tailwinds going into the corner, making braking really difficult. We had Lance Stroll and Antonio Giovinazzi crash in Q1 at turn 15 with 2 separate incidents. Daniel Ricciardo had his struggles continue this season at McLaren by crashing at turn 3. And then Yuki Tsunoda and Carlos Sainz both crashed at turn 3 in Q3, with Sainz going off to avoid Tsunoda's car in the barrier. That final crash with Sainz and Tsunoda actually secured Charles Leclerc a pole position again by a red flag for the second weekend in a row for Ferrari. So Leclerc on pole thanks to his teammate going off, unlike himself from last weekend at Monaco. But yeah, amazing result for Leclerc to be on pole once again in the Ferrari that really shouldn't be that fast, but come street circuits, the form book seems to be thrown up in the air anyway, so definitely not complaining. But Hamilton, an incredible second, that was really cool to see as well. Lando Norris got a 3-place grid penalty for not coming into the pits when the red flag came out. He thought it was too late to do so, but the FIA didn't, so he got a 3-place penalty. He started 9th. But Red Bull really, considering they were very much the fastest car throughout practice, to qualify 3rd and 6th for Verstappen and Perez, they'll be very disappointed by that. But in the race, it didn't take long for them to get back up to the front, and for most of the race they were dominating 1 and 2 with Verstappen and Perez leading. But it was the Pirelli tyres once again that came into the spotlight for not the right reasons. 2 very high profile, high speed tyre failures, one for Lance Stroll going down the main straight, causing him to have quite a heavy accident into the barriers on the left hand side. But the other one for Max Verstappen leading the race with just 5 or so laps left, looking set to easily score a victory. It would have been Red Bull's first 1-2 since Malaysia in 2016. A tyre failure causing him to crash just opposite pit entry. Very lucky that he crashed on the right hand side. He managed to, just by chance, when the tyre failed, trying to hold onto the car and then lost to the right, unlike Lance Stroll who lost it to the left. If Verstappen lost it to the left, he would have been crashing into the pit lane entry wall, which would have been a huge accident with the way that barrier's angled. So quite thankful that that didn't happen. That would have been quite bad indeed. FIA threw a red flag for that. It was a bit of a surprise at the time. Everyone thought it was just going to finish behind the safety car because there were so few laps left. But entertainment was on top of the list for the FIA today, because the red flag, so we could have a standing restart and a 2-lap sprint race shootout at the end of the race, which was incredible to watch. Yeah, it sort of gave us perhaps a bit of an indicator for what the sprint race qualifying will be like later in the year. First one coming at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. But yeah, that was an incredible 2-lap shootout at the end of the race. On the restart, Hamilton was second, quite a mega start. So Perez had a dreadful start from pole position, but Hamilton, alongside him, he accidentally re-switched on the magic button, they call it, for the front brake bias, which they switch on in formation laps and under safety car periods to push the brake bias forward to warm up the front brakes more. Apparently he accidentally knocked it back on whilst overtaking Perez, which meant come the first corner, the front tyres locked up completely, went straight on the first corner, with Mark Webber having quite an interesting reaction to it on the Channel 4 programme, screaming there. But yeah, a really, really fascinating final 2 laps. Incredible battle between Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly for that final podium place. Eventually Gasly came out on top for that, and Sebastian Vettel came home second for Aston Martin, which was absolutely incredible. His first podium since Turkey last year, his highest position since 2019 as well, because that Turkey podium was a P3, this was a P2, and Aston Martin's first podium in Formula 1 ever, which is just incredible to see. But Sergio Perez came home to take the victory, becoming the first driver in the hybrid era, so since 2014, to win a race for more than one team, which is crazy to think about it, because you've only had Hamilton win for Mercedes, Rosberg win for Mercedes, Vettel's only won for Ferrari because he didn't win in 2014 at Red Bull. So yeah, a really fascinating stat there. Also fascinating stat is that Hamilton's I think it was a 16 finish he ended up in, is his lowest recorded finishing result since I think 2009. Not sure on that entirely, but for a long time. And it broke a record 54 race streak of scoring points, the first time since 2018 where he hasn't scored points. So very impressive streak of point scoring finishes, but he'll be very annoyed to have that end. That means in the championship it is Max Verstappen who's still, well, it's all the same up at the front with Verstappen and Hamilton, with neither of them scoring points. Verstappen on 105 points, Hamilton on 101, but Sergio Perez is now up to third on 69 points in the Red Bull. And in the teams championship, Red Bull have extended their lead with Perez's win to 174 points over Mercedes 148, with Scuderia Ferrari coming in third now on 94 points, just 2 points ahead of McLaren on 92. The FIA Formula 2 Championship was once again supporting Formula 1 at Baku this weekend, and some small driver changes going into the weekend. Gianluca Petikov has left the series, unfortunately, the reigning Formula Regional champion, with lack of funding, just couldn't afford the drive at Campos Racing, unfortunately, which has meant he is being replaced by Matteo Nannini, who had left the HWA team after Bahrain for the same reason, but has found his way back into Formula 2 with Campos, which is great to see. He'll continue his dual campaign in Formula 2 and Formula 3 this year. But in the first race, it was Robert Schwartzman taking his first victory of the season for Prema, leading from the reverse qualifying pole, with Dan Tickton driving a very good race, making lots of overtakes, coming home for second for Carlin, and Guan Yu Zhou in third, the championship leader, with two championship contenders, Liam Lawson and Oscar Piastri, both crashing out at the start of the race. The second race of the weekend was in fact Formula 2's 100th race, so the 100th race of the championship under the Formula 2 guise, which came into existence in 2017. So not quite the 100th race of this model of car, because that first season, 2017, used the old model of car that was used in GP2, but still the 100th race for Formula 2, and an entertaining race indeed under the setting sun of Baku. Ben Viscal for Trident was on the reverse race pole from the first race of the weekend, and drama at the start when championship leader Guan Yu Zhou took out Dan Ticktum. Just locked up the brakes and sent Ticktum spinning into the runoff for the first corner, which meant Yuri Vips came home for his first Formula 2 win for High Tech Grand Prix. David Beckman, an incredible second for Charouz, and Alejandro Ruvalo coming home in third in the second Carlin car. Then in the third and final race of the weekend, the feature race, the first two races being the sprint races, and it was penalties galore. There was penalties being handed out left, right and centre for all sorts of different things, whether it be blocking, contact, unsafe releases. It was, I think most of, or at least half the grid probably got some kind of a penalty. Dan Ticktum being particularly vocal about his 10-second penalty he got after colliding with Teo Porcher and Marcus Armstrong on the first lap of the race at turn 3, in an incident which actually Teo Porcher sadly broke his arm in, even though it wasn't a big impact at all. He just got his hand coarse on the steering wheel and that fractures his arm. So best wishes to him, hope he can recover in time for the next race, which I think is at Silverstone for Formula 2. But an entertaining final race for the series, with Yuri Vips coming home to take a second win, and the second win in a row for him. Oscar Piastri, a good recovery to second place, and Robert Shwartzman in third, who had a very good weekend to finally get his season sort of kick-started. He had a difficult start to the season this year, going in as one of the title favourites as well from last year as well, so good to see him finally get some good results on the board, which means in the championship Shwartzman is actually up to third now on 66 points, behind his teammate Piastri on 73, but it is Guan Yu Zhou still leading for UNI Virtuosi on 78 points, and in the championship Prema lead on 139 points, just ahead of UNI Virtuosi on 119, with High Tech and Carlin joint third on 113 points. The FIA World Rally Championship took to the island of Sardinia for the Rally Italia Sardegna in the dialect, for the next round of the World Rally season. But before the weekend, some news coming out about potential lineups for 2022, with M Sports announcing that they are in fact in talks with the World Rally 2, one of the championship contenders in World Rally 2, Andreas Mikkelsen, for potential drive for next year, because they are trying to find a driver, in their words, who can win the championship in World Rally 1. That is their aim for next year with the new hybrid regulations, and they think Andreas Mikkelsen could be that driver, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that to see what comes out from there. But this weekend, Oliver Solberg was meant to be making another appearance for Hyundai in World Rally 1. Unfortunately, had to be self-isolating because his father, Petter Solberg, 2 times World Rally Cross champion and the 2003 World Rally champion, unfortunately tested positive for COVID, so he had to self-isolate, obviously being in contact with his father, which meant couldn't have his outing this weekend, but Hyundai said they will reschedule his outing, or his next outing in the World Rally Championship, so hopefully we'll see him at some point in the future. But this weekend, Teemu Suninen, something like that, returned to M Sports World Rally 1 car in place of Adrian Fourmeau. The two are sort of swapping between that car in World Rally 1 and World Rally 2 this year. But his return didn't last that long because he crashed out on stage 1. So a disappointing result there for Teemu. But the big drama came later on in the rally on stage 12, when the then rally leader Oyt Tanak crashed out after hitting a rock, and it completely smashed up his suspension. He couldn't continue, which meant the only points he was going to get was from the Wolf Power stage. And the same for the Hyundai driver of Danny Sordo, there we go, who had a half roll on stage 12 as well, which meant the winner of the last two Italia Sardinia rallies, Sordo, was not going to take a hat-trick of victories this year, unfortunately, because the driver who then went on to take the win was Sébastien Ogier, who dominated the rally after Tanak's retirement. He won the event for Toyota ahead of his teammate Elvin Evans and Terry Neuville, coming home in third for Hyundai. Shout out to the WRC2 leader, or winner of the event, Jari Huutonen, who came home an overall P5, with Matt Salzberg coming home in P6 in the category as well, P6 overall, second in the category. So capitalising on the WRC1 drivers' mistakes to get some big points in the overall championship. So impressive stuff for those two drivers in the slower category. But in the championship, it is Sébastien Ogier who now leads, or continues to lead, with his third win of the year on 106 points. Elvin Evans second for Toyota, his teammate, on 95 points, and Thierry Neuville third for Hyundai on 77 points. So it's, as it were, on the podium for this weekend in the championship, top three: Ogier, Evans and Neuville leading. MotoGP took to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for this weekend's Catalan Grand Prix, but before the weekend there were some rider announcements for 2022, with Remy Gardner in Moto2 being announced as one of the 2022 KTM Tech 3 riders, replacing one of their current two riders. We'll get to see later who will be at the rest of the team next year. But at Pramac Racing as well, they announced they will retain their 2021 lineup for next year of Joan Zarco and Jorge Martin. Speaking of Martin, he finally made his return to the series this weekend after breaking his arm in Portugal. Finally making a return this weekend. It was a low profile event for him, just slowly working his way back in, obviously after an injury. But the fact he managed to get back on the bike is what matters. Great to see him back. But a rider not so lucky was Alex Rins. He broke his arm during training on Thursday just before the weekend, which meant he was not able to take part. Suzuki didn't decide to field their replacement driver, Sylvain Guintoli, despite him being on site at the circuits, not just as their test rider who was going to be racing or participating in the post-race test, but also on site for BT Sport as well as a pundit. So a bit surprising, maybe a bit of a shame for him not to be able to get an outing, but that was the choice that Suzuki made. But in the race, going into the race, we had Fabio Quartararo on pole once again, the championship leader, but everyone thought he was going to run away with it. It may have been not the most interesting race, but anything but that happened. Quartararo didn't make a good start. The Ducatis blasting past him with the superior straight line speed, and we had a huge fight for the win between Quartararo and Miguel Oliveira on the KTM Red Bull bike, with Joan Zarco, Jack Miller and John Mir sort of lingering just behind. But got very interesting in the latter stages of the race when Quartararo seemingly undid his race suit. I think he later has revealed that it came undone by itself. But he then pulled out his chest protector, and he was literally riding along, race suit completely open, bare chested, and it was just ridiculous scenes to see that. And massively dangerous. He was only slapped with a 3-second post-race time penalty, which is unbelievable, especially considering the events of Mugello last time out with the death of De Pasquier. It's just unbelievable that the FIM, as it is for motorcycle racing, allowed that to happen, didn't black flag him. Lots of riders are saying that he should have been black flagged, should have been disqualified, because if he did go down, if he did crash, and he nearly did at turn one, he would have been completely screwed. like he would have been really badly injured. So yeah, in shock, and Quartararo actually came out after the race to say that he concedes that he should have been disqualified from that race. So at least he sort of realises just how serious of an incident that was. That meant he lost his podium because he also got another 3-second penalty for corner cutting or track extending or whatnot at turns 1 and 2. But yeah, so crazy scenes really for the championship leader, which could have a huge impact on his season as well in terms of the championship fight. Losing those vital points, he ended up, I think, in P6. Miguel Oliveira coming home to take the win, his first win of the year, and KTM's first win of the year, finally getting their difficult season finally underway. Johan Zarco coming home in second for Pramac, and Jack Miller third in the Ducati, which means in the championship, Quartararo leads for Monster Energy Yamaha on 115 points. Zarco is second now on 101 and Jack Miller third on 90. And in the team championship, it is Yamaha who leads on 190 points, Ducati second on 178, and Pramac are third on 124 points. Rallycross time, and the RallyX Nordic series took to Finland and the Ulu Zone for the most northerly event of the season, one of the most northerly circuits actually on the planet. But you wouldn't have thought so. If you were at the circuit, apparently it was boiling there. Way up in the 20 degrees Celsius range, sort of mid-20s, but that didn't stop the weekend being just as exciting as any other weekend. A few new drivers coming in for the series this weekend, from which you would recognise from the World Rallycross Championship. Juha Ruktunen making a home base appearance, who stunned the world of World Rallycross when he came in for his debut last year at his home race, coming home to take second place on debut, and Kalliokoski making a debut in the series as well. Niklas Gronholm was also present at Finland for his home event after teasing us last time out of Sweden. Would he be coming? Would he not be coming? But eventually him and his GRX team did turn up. Just him, no Christian Zarbo there as well in the second Hyundai, but just as well, because that means we got some amazing action between him and Johan Kristoffersson. Unfortunately, Fraser McConnell struggled this weekend, had a huge dent to his championship hopes. The Jamaican driver just wasn't able to get together good races. He kept on hitting the track bollards that meant as soon as you tap one of them, you're given a 5 or 3 second penalty. At least the stewards were consistent, but sometimes it was like, this is ruining the racing. But I would guess you'd rather have consistent stewards than inconsistent. Cough cough, Formula 1. But yeah, shame for him. Big dent in the championship for him, but not a big dent in the championship for Johan Kristoffersson, who came home to take the first victory on Saturday in the finals. After a puncture for Niklas Gronholm, who was leading in the early stages of that 6-lap final, but ended up in P6 as a result. Juha Ruktunen coming home in second, showing just why he's an amazing talent. And Sondra Evgen in third for EKSJC, who has overtaken Fraser McConnell in the championship as a result of this weekend. The Sunday had some technical difficulties. There was lightning strikes, there was power cuts, there was all sorts going on. We had a super wet semi-final sessions as well, the rain suddenly hurling it down. But it was dry come the final, and Niklas Gronholm came home to take the win for his GRX Hyundai team. Kristoffersson in second and Juha Ruktunen in third, which means in the championship, not including drop scores, Johan Kristoffersson leads on 155 points, Sondra Evgen second on 121, and Fraser McConnell third on 113. But after the final 2 races in Sweden in August, drop scores will be coming into effect, which will have an impact on the championship obviously. But without the drop scores, it is Kristoffersson leading on 155 points. And sticking with Rallycross, a tiny bit of World Rallycross news. Finally, some World Rallycross news. I'm getting really worried about that championship actually, with the new promoters just not seemingly doing anything. But the second driver for the championship has been announced, with Kevin Hansen making a return with his team, Hansen team, driving the usual Peugeot 208. So hopefully we'll have some more driver announcements coming after the season event to start next month in July. But we've only got 2 drivers announced, him and Enzo Eid, so fingers crossed. It's not looking good for the championship with the new promoters. Everything's going behind paywall. Used to all be free to watch on YouTube, but not anymore. The new promoters are the same promoters that the World Rally Championship have, and it's kind of going in the same direction as that, where it has its own channel and you have to pay for that, and basically everything is behind paywall. They're even removing stuff from the YouTube channel at the moment, like videos and stuff, just so you can't watch it. It's just ridiculous. So hopefully they'll see sense, but I am not getting my hopes up. But Kevin Hansen announced for World Rallycross Championship in 2021. The ADAC Total 24 Hours of the Nürburgring took place this weekend. One of the most popular endurance races of the season, a standalone event for the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. Always great fun to watch. Shame it's in the pandemic still. It's normally just one huge festival, you know, as it's got to be for 24-hour races, you know, to make it fun for the fans. But still some fans there, but not as many, and definitely not the usual festival type feel the event has. But still attracting a whopping 120 car grid for the event. Huge grid with millions, well not millions obviously, but it feels like millions of categories, going from GT3 all the way down to TCR cars. But it was a local driver for me, Nick Yellowly, on pole position, coming from my hometown. He even went to the same school as me. But yeah, great to see Nick on pole in the number 1 road racing BMW, last year's champions of the event, I think. But sadly they retired from the race on lap 42. They weren't able to go back-to-back victories this year. I say it was the 24 hours of Nürburgring. It ended up really being 10 hours at Nürburgring, because there was a 14-hour long red flag period overnight because of the weather. The fog rolled into the Eifel region of Germany where the circuit is. The rain as well came down super heavily, and it just made racing impossible. There was several very large accidents just before the red flag period came out. One including Tom Coronel, World Touring Car driver, who, him being him, decides to live stream it afterwards, trackside. Yeah. But also Stefan Branner having quite a large incident as well. He was hospitalised, but all doing okay, so nothing to worry about there for him. But yeah, 14-hour long red flag period, and some of the live stream shots, because the live stream carried on going, obviously not showing anything, no one talking, just pictures of the circuit. It looks like Mars, honestly, with the yellow lighting and the fog. Couldn't see anything. It was a very eerie sight, but it looked spectacular. But finally the race getting going on the Sunday morning, and it was the Manthey Racing Porsche, number 911, that came home for victory once again. The 7th win at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring for Manthey Racing. Kevin Estre, Michael Christensen and Matteo Cairoli coming home for the victory. The 98 Road Racing BMW came home second, with Sheldon van der Linde, Marco Wittmann, Martin Tomzik and Conor De Filippi. And in P3 it was the Get Speed Mercedes number 7 team, with Rafael Marcello, Danny Juchendayer and Maximilian Gott, who overtook on the last lap to get the podium place. So a 24-hour race, coming down to the last lap for the final podium place, as it should be, you know, in motorsport. So an entertaining race from the Nürburgring as always. NASCAR took to Sonoma for just the second road course race of the season, and Kyle Larson dominated once again. The second race in a row he's dominated, and the first driver this year to win 2 races in a row. He won all 3 stages, and never really looked in doubt, to be honest. Kyle Larson taking the victory ahead of his teammate Chase Elliott for Hendrick Motorsports, and Martin Truex Jr. coming home in third, which means in the championship Denny Hamlin still leads on 664 points, but that gap is closing. Kyle Larson is second now on 617 even, and Chase Elliott third on 591 points. The European Le Mans Series took to the Castellet at Circuit Paul Ricard for the 4 hours of Le Castellet. And in LMP2, G-Drive Racing number 26 put a stop to Team WRT's winning streak. They came home for the victory in LMP2 with Roman Vesenov, Nick de Vries and Franco Colapinto. Second was the number 22 United Autosports car of Phil Hansen, Jonathan Aberdeen and Tom Gamble, with the teammate car of the number 32 United Autosports car third, with Job van Utrecht, Nico Jamin and Manuel Maldonado, cousin of Pastor Maldonado, Formula 1 driver. We all know about him. In LMP3, it was the DKR engineering car that came home for the victory, with Lawrence Hoare and Jean-Philippe Deroute. Cool Racing number 19 was second with Matthew Bell, Nicolas Cruton and Nicolas Molini. And third, the United Autosports number 2 car of Rob Weldon, Wayne Boyd and Eduardo Cowhulp, we'll go with that. And in GTE, Iron Links came home leading an all-Ferrari podium. Iron Links number 80 for Matteo Cressoni, Miguel Molina and Rino Mastronardi. Second place was Spirit of Race number 55 with Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin and David Perel. And A of course number 88 third with Emmanuel Collard, Francois Perrodo and Alessio Rivera, which means in the championship it is Team WRT that still leads the LMP2 championship on 60 points, but just 3 points ahead now of the number 26 G-Drive Racing car, and number 22 United Autosports are third on 39 points. In LMP3, it is Cool Racing number 19 leading on 68 points, DKR Engineering second on 41, and RLR M Sport number 15 are third on 30 points. And in GTE, it's as it was on the podium, Iron Links leading 65 points, then Spirit of Race with 51, and A of course third on 41 points. The World Touring Car Championship finally got its season underway at the Nürburgring Nordschleife for the Race of Germany, supporting the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. And it was the debut race for several new cars, the Hyundai Elantra, Audi RS3 and the new Cooper Leon TCR cars. The Cooper also racing in the British Touring Car Championship under the NGTC regulations. But on pole it was Nestor Girolami for Munich Motorsports in the Honda Civic Type R. But Ivan Muller was on the reverse grid pole for the first race for Cyan Racing. Wasn't able to hold on to the victory though, because winning was Thiago Monteiro, Formula 1 driver for the Munich Motorsports All-Inkle.de team. Ivan Muller second for Cyan Racing Lincoln Co. and Santiago Urrutia third in the Cyan Performance Lincoln Co car. Slightly different team to Cyan Racing. But in the second race, a lot more chaos on the first lap. Only, I think, 3 lap races around the Nordschleife. But 8 cars out of that race compared to the 1 in the first race after the carnage at turn 2. But it was Jean-Carl Vernet for Ingsler Hyundai Liqui Moly team coming home to take the victory, with Nestor Girolami second for Allinkle.com Munich Motorsport, again slightly different team to the .de team, and Luca Engsler coming home in third, teammates to Jean-Carl Vernet, which means in the championship it is Jean-Carl Vernet who leads for Liqui Moly Hyundai on 39 points, Thiago Monteiro second for Munich Motorsport on 33 points, and Girolami third for Munich Motorsport on 33 points. Joint on points, in fact, with Monteiro. I didn't notice that. So very tight up at the top in the Drivers' Championship, and in the team standings, it is the Liqui Moly Hyundai team leading on 63 points, Allinkle.com Munich Motorsport second on 56 points, and Allinkle.de Munich Motorsport third on 50 points. A small bit of British touring car news. Paramax Racing has announced Jack Constable as their development driver for 2021. He was set to make his debut in the series at Croft last year for the team, but was unfortunately pulled out on medical grounds. So good to see that he is now back with the team as a development driver. Hopefully that means we'll see him in the series at some point in the future. Meanwhile, Andy Neate, the infamous driver of British touring cars who caused all the chaos at Thuxton for the first race of the season, has relinquished his seat for the next round at Snetterton next weekend, or this coming weekend I should say, which is surprising, but he said he needs some time out basically after the last race and all of the hate, shall we say, that was thrown towards him after his very much below par driving, as always. But he has given the seat, and the fact that he gave the seat, not the team, to Jessica Hawkins, which hats off to Andy Neate to give Jess the chance there. That's a very good gesture indeed. Hawkins made her debut in the series last year for Paramax Racing as part of the programme they were doing, I think at Snetterton, so she's already got experience at Snetterton in a British touring car, so that will definitely help. But she's also done Porsche Carrera Cup GB and W Series as well, so great to see Hawkins on the grid, and will be the second female driver on the grid as well, with Jade Edwards doing the full season of BTC Racing, so great to see that in British touring cars. And finally, a tiny bit of news from the World Endurance Championship, with Ferrari announcing that their Le Mans Hypercar programme will be done in partnership with AF Course, continuing their partnership which they have in the GTE category, and the cars will be entered under the Ferrari AF Course banner. So awesome to see that partnership continue into the Le Mans Hypercar class. But that's it for this week. A long one, I think, probably. Lots of stuff going on, lots of different series I've talked about. I've lost count how many different ones I've spoken about today. But next weekend also a busy weekend. We've got IndyCar and IMSA at Detroit for their joint weekend at the street circuit of Detroit. BTCC, like I said, back at Snetterton this coming weekend. The 8 Hours of Portimao for the World Endurance Championship as well. And the NASCAR Texas All-Star Open, a non-championship race at Texas Motor Speedway for NASCAR, so that will be entertaining to watch as well. But that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. A slightly longer one, a bit more rambly I think as well it feels like. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you next week in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your week. Goodbye.